Welcome to Creator Upload, your creator economy podcast. I'm Lauren Schnipper.
And I'm Joshua Cohen.
Josh,
Yes.
I got bangs. Some call it fringe. I want to note that Hugh and I have been talking on a video for the last however many minutes. You didn't notice. You didn't say a goddamn word. And I got fringe. And this is a huge moment in every woman's life. And you should be ashamed. How goddamn sexist of you. How misogynistic of you not to notice my fucking fringe at this stage in life.
I know you've lived in Southern California for like the majority of your adult experience, but in other parts of the world, we just don't comment on people's physical appearance as much.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely untrue. And also, I got fringe. So, like, there's bangs now. So, like, I just feel like, what the fuck, right? Excuse my language. So this is a really big moment for me, and I just wanted to share it with you.
Thank you so much for sharing. If you could see Lauren's bangs on camera, if you're watching this on YouTube, they look fabulous. They're great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're having fun with it.
I'm not sure if I like make my forehead look bigger or small. I don't know. Anyway, we have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions, but more importantly, today is a giant day in terms of, I feel like it's been, can we just say it out loud? Like it's been kind of a slow summer for like sort of creator news. I feel like we've all sort of just been like, waiting for something big to happen. And then YouTube came out with like banger after banger this last week or so. So I feel like this is going to be like a YouTube branded podcast today. And we're starting with the big news that is surprising to some, not surprising to your girl, but YouTube is now paying supposedly select creators millions of dollars so that they keep their videos exclusively on its platform. This is a direct sort of reaction to what has been going on with Netflix, where Netflix has been paying YouTubers to put their content on Netflix first. Now, the difference between the two is that Netflix is not asking for a total exclusivity where YouTube is. Now, the reason why this is like a really big deal, just to like zoom out a little bit, there's been lots of kind of stops and starts with YouTube sort of paying creators kind of money up front, not talking about just AdSense splits, but money up front to keep the content. There was premium content efforts. There was all sorts of things going on. But for the last several years, they've kind of put a moratorium on that. That hasn't been happening. At the same time, as we all know, and we've talked about a bunch, is that YouTube has been making this push that like YouTube is TV. We're the new premium TV. We're the new premium TV. Well, that's a problem if then your more premium content is now being put first on what is historically considered the more premium platforms like Netflix. Like that kind of directly negates that sort of whole thesis. And so, this has happened over the last several months. And I've been listening to it's so fascinating. And you and I got to talk about this a little bit. When you hear other, call it, podcasts that are in the more traditional media space and you listen to them and they seem so smart and then they talk about our world and then you're like, oh, they don't know anything about our world, right? And so one such podcast I was listening to a few weeks ago talked about this. And the big question on that podcast, and I'm not going to name it because I'm about to talk shit about it, but was like, does YouTube actually care that this is happening? And their takeaway was like, YouTube doesn't really care. And to a certain extent, I understand. Like, the sum is greater than its parts. A couple, going into Netflix. It's not like it's exclusively to Netflix. Who cares? Well, I listened to that and I was like, YouTube cares. I was like, this is complete BS. Like, they totally care. And then I ended up sitting down with a couple of folks that have made those deals with Netflix and like operators of sort of big channels. Not necessarily the creators themselves. And I got word that there's been a lot of, call it, consternation and conversations with YouTube around these sort of deals and them sort of off the record coming to them being like, why would you go to these places? And these people being like, because they're paying us tons of money. And YouTube has had this sort of attitude, supposedly that like, why would you do that? Like, we're the greatest and, we offer so much. And these folks are like, do you know how much money it takes to produce the content that you want on this platform? And, there's so many things in the algorithm that can change in a dime that have historically sort of led to major dips in revenue, and they have to invest a ton in that content. And so when they're getting offers for money up front to put their content elsewhere, and it's not even exclusive, why wouldn't they take it? So evidently this was heard, and I don't think we have a list of who they're offering folks kind of money up front, but it is happening. The second thing I will say is that I also got word that YouTube was planning on creating policy such that if you do make these deals, you're going to be kind of downgraded in certain ad tiers. So Supposedly, creators who take Netflix money alongside YouTube deals are said to risk losing access to YouTube marketing pushes, major events, and a cut of those platform brand campaigns. So they're really trying to sort of tighten the noose, if you will, around like, you better stay on YouTube. Thoughts on this, Josh?
Yes, Lauren, a lot of thoughts here. First, I want to talk about this phenomenon of you hear people who you think are experts in one field, and then they talk about your field, and you realize they're not that knowledgeable about your field, and it makes you question their expertise in all fields.
Correct.
It's called the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. It was
there's a name for everything these days. There's a syndrome for it all.
So author Michael Crichton named it after physicist Murray Gell-Mann, and he named it after physicist Murray Gell-Mann because Gell-Mann was this Renaissance man who knew so much about everything that he would frequently point out inconsistencies and inaccuracies in other people's work that weren't even in his field of study. And so then Michael Crichton named this after him to basically describe exactly what you're talking about. This idea where you like read a newspaper article about your own field of work or study, you see these errors, weak facts, or total misunderstanding in the piece, and then you realize the writer has no real clue about the topic. And then you see a different article that the writer writes, and you're like, oh, that sounds really interesting and fascinating. And you kind of forget that the writer didn't know anything about your topic, but then you take everything they said word for word about this other topic. That's the amnesia part of it.
See, I want to go on the record as saying when we have ever talked about sports on this podcast, I've been upfront about like not knowing like a lot about sports. So I just don't want to. I just feel like that need to be said. Go on.
Yes. And now getting back to this YouTube announcement, I think this is kind of a huge deal that was inevitable that many people thought wouldn't happen, including Neil Mohan himself. So since he's assumed the role of CEO, Neil Mohan has been adamant about saying that he's trying to create the best stage possible that the world has ever seen. And so he's creating this product that creators can come to, post their content on, get revenue from an increasingly variety of different revenue streams for that content, and then make more of it. So really creating this best possible platform he can that's going to entice people to put their content on it and then distribute it to the world. That's in contrast to Susan Wojcicki and Chief Business Officer Robert Kyncl before him, who came from Netflix, who had a much more Hollywood mentality. He's the one that started YouTube Red, then became YouTube Premium, that was hosting all these YouTube original shows.
Right.
And Neil Mohan's a product guy. He came in, he said, let's make the best product possible and not worry about the rest.
Right.
And now they're worrying about the rest. And I would say, though, I do kind of agree with those other podcasters who you are not naming about how this is like not a big deal. I think it is a very big deal to YouTube, but I don't think it should be. One of YouTube's core messages over the last several years was creators can go off to all these other different platforms, but YouTube is its home. And they're always going to come back to YouTube because they offer that great stage, because they offer these literally like 17 to 19 different types of monetization opportunities on the platform. I don't think YouTube needs to worry about this stuff as much as it is, or as much as this article from Lucas Shaw would indicate that they are.
Well, I think the reason I disagree why they should argue about it right now at this very moment is because this is the exact moment when they're trying to push YouTube as premium content. And so if in that exact moment that premium content is living elsewhere and as a first look window, it completely negates that whole kind of thesis. I don't think this is a long-term play. I think this is the moment, right? This is the 15 years ago when they invested $100 million in all of those channels that I think 99% of which were not, YouTube first channels. It was like the JLos of the world, and they were putting all this money in. And those of us that were working with YouTubers were all pissed off. We're like, why aren't they giving the money to the YouTubers? It was because they needed to convince the brands that premium content was on YouTube such that they would put their dollars on there. All of those channels went away, didn't last, all the things, but effectively that $100 million convinced those brands to put their money on the platform. So it was 100% worth it, right? And I remember then when I got inside of Facebook much later, it was like I realized that $100 million was a drop in the bucket, right? So it didn't even really matter in terms of their bottom line, but it was the much bigger picture, and it was definitely 100% worth it. Like the goal was not to make those channels be like long-term channels. The goal was to get the brands on. And so for me, with this, the goal is not about those individual YouTubers that are maybe going to go to Netflix. The goal is to say, hey, see, we're premium content. We are TV. We're even going to pay for content to stay here. Look, everybody, like, give us the TV dollars here. That's what this is. This isn't about the individual channels.
So you think it's a short-term, basically
100%.
Marketing initiative to keep these creators
right
on the
now,
platform?
It is. Yes, I think right now that's what it is. Not saying that it could turn into some sort of long-term thing in the sense where, like, still a marketing spend and we allocate X number of millions of dollars per year to make sure we have a few of these channels that stay on. I don't see this going like, long tail at all. Like, I think this is like a marketing spend.
So parts of this that make sense to me from YouTube's perspective are they're obviously not going to market programs that appear day and date on other platforms as hard as they would programs that are exclusively on YouTube. That just makes sense. That seems like good practical business. They're also not going to try to sell those shows as hard as they would other shows that are exclusive to the platform. Again, that just seems practical and not some like crazy business.
I would say, but here's where I'm going to interrupt you and say this. I think historically, because YouTube hasn't really paid those dollars, it's sort of seen like this, to your point, like home for these creators. They always have a home there. They're not looking to do those big deals. Therefore, like, go with God. If you get a bigger deal based on your YouTube sort of thing, like, go there. And so then they're sort of wanting their cake and eat it too for a while, right? They're like, okay, we're TV. We're doing all these things. We want your exclusive this and that. Oh, but we're not going to pay you any money for that. And the YouTubers are like, what? Like, you can't have it both ways. Right. And so they're like, we're going to go elsewhere. So now, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's like, yes, you're right. That is all practical and stuff. If you're paying premium dollars to make those people kind of stay on the platform, like, you can't have it both ways. They're trying to have it both ways.
But I think they do naturally have it both ways because the business model on these other platforms won't sustain any of these creators long term. So all of these creators that have gone over the Netflix in some way, shape, or form, which have been a lot recently. There's been Miss Rachel, Mark Rober, The Sidemen, Rhett and Link from Mythical, Nick DiGiovanni, The Stokes Twins, Salish and Jordan Mather, Alan Chicken Chow, Hot Ones, podcasts like Jay Shetty, Bill Simmons podcast, and most likely a few more. If their YouTube channels disappeared, they wouldn't have much more of a life on Netflix because the business model there isn't going to sustain their current production schedule, isn't going to sustain all of what they're creating that has a home on YouTube. So I don't think YouTube needs to be concerned with them going day and day on these other platforms because they're never going to be able to sustain that for any type of long term.
They don't, in the sense, I agree, but if they're trying to convince everybody that they're premium television, that means they have to have the premium content on there first. That's what I'm trying to say, cake and eat it too. I agree with you. I think that these people will always by the way, philosophically, even like Jimmy, always, as I understand it, in his offices, it says something like YouTube first. Like, he's always going to like be YouTube first if he can be, right?
His
like
email address has YouTube in it.
There you go. You know what I mean? So I don't disagree that this is their forever home. But if they have opportunities to make some extra cash elsewhere, they're going to do that. And if YouTube wants them to be day and date and like stay on their thing, they're going to have to pay a little bit more for that. They can't have both.
I guess it makes sense from a perspective of where you're out in the market in sales and you're trying to sell these premium shows on YouTube. You don't want to have to compete with another sales organization who's also selling the same exact premium shows 100%. On a different network.
This is a bottom line thing. This is a money thing. This is 100% a money thing. The sales team came back and were like, are you kidding me? How am I supposed to sell this when it's somewhere else? 100%. They don't care. This isn't about.
I guess that makes sense from a short-term sales strategy.
Yes, but it's also, yes, it is. It's because of what's happening right now. Listen, there's a lot of things we don't know. This I know.
And just to be clear, from Lucas Shaw's reporting at Bloomberg, YouTube is potentially handing creators checks for production, but also, I think probably to a greater extent, is offering them these brand opportunities, lots of which they already promoted and talked about a ton at the recent Brandcast event. To creators like Trevor Noah, Kareem Rama, Alex Cooper, and more, they're really elevating a lot of the creators that have done well on the platform that are big in just culture at large and mobilizing an internal sales pod to sell brand deals across their shows.
Well, I think what you're speaking of is apparently these offers can take three forms: direct financing for creator shows, a share of the platform-wide brand deals YouTube negotiates with advertisers, and upfront cash. So that's the three forms that the deals can take.
Yeah, which is in contrast to, Lauren, about a decade or more ago when YouTube was very scared when Jason Kilar, who was the first CEO of
Hulu.
came out with this new platform, Vessel, that was going to window creator content. It was paying creators a ton of upfront cash in order to get their content on Vessel first. That was going to be the first window. And then YouTube was going to be the second window. And then YouTube freaked out because Jason Kilar built this incredibly successful platform at Hulu that no one thought he was going to be able to build. TechCrunch, before Hulu had the name of Hulu, TechCrunch was calling it Clown Co. That's how much of a joke it was in the ecosystem and the industry.
So funny.
And then it became this big deal, and people were like, oh, wow, what's this guy going to do next? He had his eye on creators. YouTube got scared, offered matching deals that were potentially bigger than what these creators would get from Vessel, and it turned out to be nothing.
My recollection of that sort of period was they were adding the big giving the big checks to the creators. And they didn't have, there was no obligation. It wasn't like Netflix where it was like established platform, right? Like this Vessel was a brand new platform, right? So there was no eyeballs on it. So they were saying to the creators, we're going to give you these big eyeballs, and we're going to give you like a promo code. And every time you have somebody like sign up for it, you're going to get a piece of their like subscription. Well, what happened was the creators just took the checks, never promoted it, and then put their stuff on YouTube and got their AdSense. And then the later deals then were like, oh, wait, we have to obligate you to promote it, because they just thought that would be enough of an incentive. And people were literally getting $1 million checks. And then they were just like, sure, I'll put that. The other thing, it's just interesting, too, because it's all time and place, right? The content at the time, I'm just going to be real, was like a lot of the content that's going to Netflix, it's this premium content. It's much more produced. It's like, these are the folks that have like real teams behind them. And at the time, this was like vlogs. This was like not at all premium content, come at me with that. But it's true. I'm very familiar with what the content was. And it was just a different time. There was like, it wasn't a time when people were angry at some of the creators for leaving YouTube. Like there was like that, there was a backlash, like, or doing that and not leaving to YouTube, but like putting their content elsewhere. Like there was a sense that there was backlash and stuff. So it was very different, where now it's like, I think there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram video when this happened. Like there was no other place besides YouTube for these creators to put their content. Now it goes without saying that fans of creators welcome and understand when their content is everywhere. They like want it to be everywhere. So like the idea that it's going on Netflix, nobody's backlashing against a creator because their content is also on Netflix. You know what I mean? Like it's not a thing, but I don't think people quite understand. Like we've been around long enough to know when like brand deals were thought of selling out. Like that was like, there's been such an very quick, relatively speaking, evolution as it pertains to like different ways that creators can monetize. But it was such a, loyal, dedicated audience. And these creators were thought as so altruistic that it was like, you can't try to sell me anything. You can't try to like make more money than you already are on your content. And that, it's so silly. Ridiculous. So it was a different time, and Vessel turned out to be a big nothing burger, but it was the times, man, just different.
So Lauren, you've kind of changed my opinion now. I get how this can be a short-term, potentially longer-term strategy for YouTube, especially because there's confusion in the sales market that has direct ramifications to YouTube's bottom line and those sellers' quotas and more. I get it. I don't know if I agree with the whole strategy, but I get it. But where I think YouTube would be better off placing more of its money if it wanted more television advertising dollars and more of its time and resources is getting more people like Phil Rosenthal over to the platform. So he's the creator of Somebody Feed Phil. It was on Netflix for several years. He then either didn't get renewed by Netflix or decided not to take the renewal package with Netflix, and now is moving his show over to YouTube because he sees incredible opportunity there. And I would do everything in my power to make sure like that show's successful so that you can show that there's a clear path here for celebrated and talented people from traditional entertainment to create a viable show on YouTube that's great, that doesn't lack for any types of quality programming, and that is financially successful. I think if YouTube can make that a kind of case study for how you can be successful in Hollywood and successful on YouTube, that's going to do leaps and bounds more than any of these other types of
what does that look like?
creator deals
That
will.
looks like Phil Rosenthal now getting like money up front, right? And then all of a sudden they're just in that game like 100%. So it's like you think that, and by the way, you think his reps haven't called being like, "Yo, where's my money?" And by the way, maybe he is getting money because he might be part of this deal. So like,
Totally fair.
it's like it's that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's the danger of going down this road. Then it's like, well, every one of these creators who got money has told everybody in their orbit that they've gotten money. All of their reps are calling YouTube right now. Like this isn't it might be a secret currently to us because it hasn't been, but everybody knows. You know what I mean? So it's not, that's the game I think they've been trying to avoid. And there's a lot of reasons why. I think that you could make an argument that they could pay less money up front because you're also going to get AdSense, or you could say like you're not going to get AdSense now as a result. There's a lot of ways you can like skin it, but that's the game that I think they've been trying to avoid. And turns out you can't have your cake and eat it too, YouTube.
Yeah. Now they're in it.
Now they're in it.
Now we're in it.
Okay, keep going with YouTube. So this is big news. YouTube is now counting public views from the first frame, which effectively is going to just increase I don't want to say vanity, but I'm going to say vanity. The vanity view count metric for both shorts and long form. And I think what people, deep insiders kind of understand this, but a lot of people don't really understand that like there's no universal kind of metric for, I want to say basically anything in our industry, right? A view on one platform historically is not a view on another platform, right? Like Facebook, it was 3 seconds. YouTube, it was something like 30 seconds. Then it's 1 second. It's just like, so it's very difficult apples to apples to understand like what is a view. This is why I always go back to, you have these TikTokers a couple years ago showing up to VidCon that had bajillion views and like nobody's showing up to their meet and greets because those views were like scrolling. Nobody's really looking at them, right? And so to a certain extent, like a view on YouTube was sort of considered, not to a certain extent, I would say a view on YouTube was considered sort of more valuable, right? Because you had to actually spend time on the content. Well, YouTube is saying, F that. To any sort of value view. So basically, from their YouTube forum, last year we updated how we count public views for shorts to better capture how viewers watch on YouTube. Now we're aligning all other video formats to the same standard for consistency across the platform. Beginning on 8/24/2026, a view will be counted the moment a video begins to play from the very first frame. This standard will now apply globally across all formats. So basically, it counts a view now the instant someone clicks on a video. You don't have to watch 30 seconds or 5 seconds or 1 second. It doesn't matter if they just scrolled on it and looked at it for a millisecond and goes, if it loads, it's a view. So they've been already kind of doing this for shorts to sort of compete with TikTok, but not for long form. So worth noting, the change affects public view counts, not the view counts creators see in YouTube Studio. Going to your analytics tab will show a different number called engaged views, which YouTube describes as the original view metric. YouTube says this change won't impact creators' earnings because those will continue to be based on engaged views or engaged watch hours. So you can see that in your analytics sort of tab. So I think that's very much worth noting. That's why I would say this is a vanity metric to sort of compete with the likes of YouTube. Now, the question is how this is going to affect like brand deals. And it is worth noting that in 2019, Facebook paid $40 million to settle a class action lawsuit brought by advertising agencies over its 3 seconds of view is a view policy. Agencies alleged that the measurement method inflated view counts by up to 900% and gave them false sense of how well their content was doing. So I think that because they're keeping that engaged view kind of metric on the back end, that's their defense to being like, a brand can always look at the engaged views and not the vanity metric. So that's how they're probably going to get out of that. And that's probably why they kept that engaged view metric. And obviously they don't want to just pay on a millisecond.
Yes, Lauren. So what this basically changes is views are no longer views. Maybe they never were views before, but they're basically impressions now. Like you said, YouTube changed this for shorts last April in 2025. Presumably that went very well and put YouTube shorts view counts on par with TikTok views and Instagram Reels views and made YouTube more appealing for advertisers and brands, even though this is a vanity metric, even though this just tracks impressions. We've talked about at least one other kind of anthropological theory here on Creator Upload in this installment. Here's another one. This is coined by myself. It's the theory of humans like big number go up.
Oh, we see. Yes. Me like big things. American like big things.
They do, especially in America. So you can see that in the stock market. You can see that in sabermetrics and sports. And you can see it in online video metrics, whether they're vanity or real. Humans like big number go up.
Big
And
number
we
go
don't
up.
realize when we're looking at the thing, probably because we were preconditioned to it before.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's a component of it, where we thought this view was a view. And also the vocabulary is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we think about viewing something, we think about watching it. We don't think about taking a glance at it.
Correct.
If you said to your friend when you were talking, hey, did you view that thing?
As you know, I'm wont to do.
As you're wont to do. If you talked about, did you view something?
Joshua, did you view something?
You wouldn't assume that the person said yes and they just glanced at it.
Correct.
You would assume that they had some kind of knowledge of the topic that then you could dive into more with them about, that they had some type of sustained visual effort going towards looking at this thing to understand what it is, what it's about, and more. That's not the case with any of these online metrics. And I think the nomenclature there confuses us a little bit.
Well, I actually think this is the thing that like bothers me about all of this is that you and I are deep in this, right? And so we understand the lack of consistency across platforms. We understand the nuance between this view and engaged view. But your girl is in the midst of talking to the school a lot about how much tech they're doing in the classroom. And one of the things I'm sort of talking about is like big tech makes up data to suit their goals, period. Ed tech is big tech. So they, when you see these studies about certain programs and doing really well and you dig into it and you see that those were commissioned by the actual, tech company and they were like slapped to like some fancy university's name on it, it's like, it's not real, right? And so this is an example of like, it's not real. And so, but the general public honestly they really truly don't understand. It's purposely confusing. Right. And then this is why in 2019, the advertising, world didn't understand this. They were confused. You told me this was a view. It's not a view. You lied. And they did. Just because they could argue, well, we didn't because we called it a view. Well, that doesn't. But what is the definition of a view? You know what I mean? Like it's what is the definition? It's like this is all it's all made up. It's all made up to suit their goals. They're doing this to attract TikTokers to come onto their platform so that when they put their same content that's on TikTok and they put it on YouTube and they're wondering why it's got half the amount of views, now they don't have to wonder that anymore because they're going to be like, it's the same. And even my longs are the same. And it's all made up. It's not true.
So I'm guessing this did really well for shorts. I'm guessing it will do really well for long form content on YouTube as well.
And what is the definition of success here, right? The definition of success, in my opinion, is likely one of the metrics is like, are they getting TikTokers over? Because, we've talked about this a lot, where like YouTube used to be the place where creators started their careers. And now it's not really, right? Like you start on TikTok because why? It's easy to get discovered and have a ton of views there. And you feel like you're great. And then you want to do more content. You feel like you're growing, but you can't make money there. So then you go to YouTube, right? And then you go to YouTube and you're like, why am I garbage here? It's like, well, because this is actually what people are like viewing. And then now they're like, just kidding. It's the same.
Right.
It's great.
Even if everybody's getting 1 million views per video, it feels really good if you can get 1 million views per video.
100%. It's also just like, it's one of those things that's, now I'm going deep, but it's like inflation. You know what I mean? It's just like, it starts to not mean anything. It's like when everything is 1 million, you know what I mean? Like 1 million views. It's like, well, if that's now the threshold, when does it end? Where does it stop, Josh? It's like, is me opening my eyes in bed now considered a view to like every content piece of content I've ever watched? I mean, there's just, where does this end?
And I think it's just worth noting, people have grown up a lot in the last 7-8 years since that Facebook fiasco. And marketers and advertisers in this ecosystem are way more sophisticated.
Way more savvy now, yeah.
And they're going to ask for all of these different metrics from creators. Those engaged views are going to become increasingly important. I think for different types of awareness campaigns, potentially, maybe this regular view count will become interesting for brands and marketers, but they're definitely going to want to see the engaged views too.
I mean, I think what this does, like, as you know, I love is like, product changes that then have these trickle down effects. And I think what this is going to do, to your point, is like solidify even more brands wanting to see real ROI in terms of the money that they're spending. It's like for a long time, it's not been about view count. It's not been about subscriber count necessarily. It's been really about engagement and actual ROI. And this is just going to like solidify that even more. Like I'm a brand, I'm going to be like, if my goal is, clicks conversion, then your deal is going to be more hinged on how much I convert versus like giving how much money you're going to get up front. I think that's going to be a real sort of, again, trickle down sort of ramification of this change. And last but not least, in big YouTube news, they have changed the way you can get into the partner program. I want you to describe this. You love numbers, Josh. You go for it.
You got it, Lauren. So currently, creators who have 1,000 subscribers and then either have 4,000 hours of yearly public watch time or 10 million shorts views over 90 days are eligible to receive ad revenue from the YouTube Partner Program. When this new policy is going to kick in next February 1st, new applicants to the program will need either 8,000 hours of watch time over 365 days or 20 million shorts views over 90 days. Then, once you're in the program, you need to sustain 10 million shorts views over 90 days in order to stay in it and continue earning ad revenue from shorts. If you drop below that, you can still be in the partner program for your long form content, but you will no longer be earning ad revenue from shorts. And so the theory and rationale around this, at least according to YouTube VP of Creator Product, Amjad Hanif, is that YouTube wants to make shorts ads revenue more, quote, meaningful, end quote. And it takes tens of millions of views to make these checks anything that comes close to being substantial for these creators. Like, YouTube doesn't want to send out checks for like a couple bucks anymore. Maybe they did in the past. Maybe it was interesting for them because then it would get creators used to earning money from YouTube and then they want to ramp up more. But there's so much content now on the platform, and maybe it's just become a hassle and a logistics issue, or maybe they really want to make it so when you get that first check, it's just a little bit more meaningful and it's not pennies or dollars, but tens of dollars or hundreds of dollars. And then a third kind of rationale I think they have for this is that there are all these other types of monetization opportunities on the platform, and they want to funnel early creators into those other monetization opportunities to really ramp those up. So, for instance, there are a bunch of fan funding requirements. Those have been left unchanged. Anyone with 500 subs and either 3,000 yearly long-form watch hours or 3 million 90-day shorts views, so much lower thresholds, they can turn on tools that let them receive direct support from their fans. This is from the YouTube blog post, quote, "We're broadening revenue opportunities for creators to reward growth, engagement, and more by introducing new incentive programs rather than relying solely on ad revenue. For channels below the 10 million view threshold, these initiatives introduce new ways to earn based on hitting certain milestones, like bonuses for YouTube shopping, incentives for brand deals, and earning boosts for starting and growing trends." They're going to share more details on that soon. So they really want to create other opportunities for creators that are early on in their creator trajectory and their life cycle to earn revenue on the platform, and they want to funnel them into those categories.
And Josh, I think there's been some what do you feel like the backlash has been around these changes?
So I think the backlash is a little bit overstated. People have been saying YouTube is making it twice as hard to earn money from the platform. And I get it. That's technically accurate. But at least in terms of shorts views, yes, 10 million views is a lot, but it's not a ton.
Especially with these new metrics.
Especially with these new metrics.
Yeah.
Presumably, these are going to be engaged views still, and that's how you're going to qualify for these partner programs and the different advertising opportunities on YouTube. But still, when it comes to shorts programming, it's not a ton of views. And I think it's an easy headline to say YouTube wants to cut out the lower tier of content creators, or YouTube is screwing the middle tier of content creators, or YouTube is making it harder to make money on the platform. I think if you go and you look at the checks that would come in for these small creators at the size, it's not going to pay anybody's rent. It's not going to pay for anybody's equipment. It might pay for some snacks while they're shooting, but that's about it. And then YouTube is again offering these other types of programs that could potentially be way more lucrative. So I think what YouTube wants to establish is you don't have to be Mr. Beast, Nick DiGiovanni, Mark Rober, Michelle Khare, and more to be successful and make a living on YouTube. I think if I was in YouTube PR marketing, what I would showcase coming out of this are these small creators that are crushing it because they have dedicated communities and not a lot of views.
Right.
And that's what I would focus on. And that's what I would show how we have this other kind of creator on the platform that looks and feels different than the ones you're used to, but is still crushing it in their own world and being able to sustain a solid income from the platform, or at least a lot of supplemental income from the platform.
Okay, Josh, that was a big YouTube day. I need a break. Uploads, downloads, I will start. Meta is currently about to face a lawsuit brought to them by 29 states, including California and New York, which they claim that numerous violations of federal and state privacy laws for children. Not only are the states seeking billions of dollars, and this is what's notable, they are demanding they make actual product changes to Instagram and Facebook in order to protect kids. So what they want Meta to do, implement a process of parental verification for teenage users, change its dopamine manipulating recommendation algorithms, remove many image filters that change one's appearance in photos, end autoplay of video content, prohibit the creation of multiple accounts, and disappearing or ephemeral posts such as Instagram stories. And the suit sort of argues that these features are designed to keep users, including teenagers and children, on the platforms as often and for as long as possible, as states contend. They claim Meta even makes it difficult for young people to use the platform less through things like frequent notifications designed to get young people back on the apps. I'd argue all of that is true. They're making products to keep people on the platforms longer. The question is, are they knowingly doing it because they're knowingly harming children? I think that's the big question. The Kentucky Attorney General, Russell Coleman, said, "We'll show a jury that Meta concealed what it knew about the harms its products cause young people because looking away was more profitable. AGs are in the perfect position to get this done. We did it with the tobacco settlement in the 1990s. We did it with the companies behind the opioid crisis. We'll do it again with Meta." 29 AGs, they're coming out. They're coming out to play.
That's not a small amount of AGs.
It's not a small amount. So, something's going to happen as a result of this. The thing that's hard about asking a tech company to make these product changes is where does it end? Because, okay, let's say they decide all of these things go away. They have brilliant people that are going to come up with new sort of versions of this. You know what I mean? It's so finite, these sort of specific product changes. And so it's like, it has to be bigger than like individual product changes if they really want to see, you know what I mean? Like they want to see change in these from these big tech companies. And that's the part where I think people, as well intentioned as they don't really understand tech. It's like, okay, great, we won't do these, we'll do another thing. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally.
It's hard. But I commend them, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Lauren, quick upload for you if you're a member of the Motion Picture Association. So the MPA and ByteDance have announced a global agreement to protect intellectual property on AI, video, and image generation models. So the two organizations announced this week that they've reached a memorandum of understanding, quote, reflecting a shared framework to maintain strong guardrails on generative AI, video, and image models like SeedDance and SeedStream. Those are offered by TikTok, the TikTok USDS joint venture, CapCut, and Dream Mania, among others, with the goal of protecting intellectual property, end quote. As TikTok continues to be an important platform in culture, and ByteDance is doing all it can to integrate AI into it, the MPA is like, yo, chill out on using our content, and then we'll be good.
Yeah,
and TikTok seems to be agreeing so far.
TikTok seems to be like, you know what? I'm gonna chill.
Yeah, we're gonna chill.
Hey,
we're gonna play nice. You've thought we haven't played nice in the past. We're gonna play super nice.
We super play nice. This is great.
Yeah.
Have
you seen our deal with Disney, by the way? Like Disney loves us.
Loves. Like Spotify, whatever.
I think it could be interesting too, as like TikTok ingratiates itself more and more to Hollywood and say that we're gonna play nice with AI, and there's more deals like this Disney deal. They could become a de facto place for a bunch of these different intellectual property owners to release content on the platform to then basically get crowdsourced content generation for their own individual platforms.
All right, Josh, I think we did it.
Lauren, I think that's it. I'll see you just trying to incorporate views into your everyday language and noticing the results.
Just as long as we talk about my friend.
I did view that earlier. I just didn't comment.
You viewed. Okay, thank you.
And the thought there next week on Creator Upload. Today's show was produced by Lauren Schnipper, Joshua Cohen, that's me, and Adam Connor. It's edited by Adam Connor too. Original music is by London Bridge. You can check him out on Instagram at London Bridge Music. Make sure you subscribe to Creator Upload right here on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, as well, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. While you're there, give us a rating and leave us a comment. If you want to talk, hit us up at info@creatorupload.com. If you like our show, recommend it to a friend. If you love it, just tell everyone. Thanks for listening to Creator Upload, and we will be back next week.